Welcome back to another powerful episode of Pulse of Polynesia, where we dive into the journeys, the struggles, and the victories of our people. I'm your host, Leaso, coming to you live from Katy, Texas, with my co-pilot, Arlington, holding it down up north in Oklahoma. And tonight, we're turning the temperatures all the way up in the hot seat. Guest this evening is a walking testimony that no setback can stop a determined spirit. She's a proud Navy veteran, a daughter who just bought a home for her parents in California, and just recently walked across the stage with a Doctor of Business Administration proudly behind her name. One of my favorite posts on her Facebook stopped me in my tracks. She wrote, and I quote, I come out of every heartbreak with a degree. This heartbreak was from the Navy. Thank you. Is that even that's my drop of the year? I don't know what is. It is my absolute honor and joy to welcome to the hot seat Dr. Janet Tunoa. Welcome, Janet. What's up?
Hello,
Talofa
hello,
Jenny.
Talofa, Talofa.
Well, Dr. Tunoa, first of all, congratulations. What a journey it's been. You've been in the Navy, walked through heartbreaks, survived setbacks, and came swinging with a doctorate. That alone deserves a standing ovation. So let's take it back for a minute. Who is Janet Tunoa before the degree, before the uniform, before the title doctor? Tell us about your roots and where this fire in you comes from.
Um, from my family, um, ever since I was young, my dad actually, I just remember one of our drives. Um, I think driving home from school, this stuck with me throughout my educational journey. He told me, you know, people can take away everything from you. They can take away your money, everything you have, but they can't take away what's inside your brain. So I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. So that's been my motivation. Just keep going, you know, no matter what I'm going through. I just kept pushing through. Yeah.
So I have to ask, in regards to all of this, you know, you decided to get your bachelor's and join the Navy right afterwards. What made you decide to join of all parts of the military? Why the Navy? And why after your bachelor's? Usually, a lot of kids like to go before they go to college.
Mhm.
But what made you decide to take that route?
Um, Honestly, right after high school, I wasn't, within standards to join any branch. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go get my degree real quick. And then after I got my degree, I I started, working out, going to the gym. I lost like about 100 pounds just to join,
Wow.
the military. And I wanted to join the Air Force so bad. I wanted to be in the Air Force. And I remember going to the recruiter, and the recruiter, like, I caught her on the way out. And she said, "Oh, there's a year-long wait list." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Then I, like, the very next day, I went to the Navy recruiting office. The Army tried to get me, and I was like, "No, I can't." And the only reason why I said no to the Army was because I have, like, nothing wrong with being in the Army. It's just I have a lot of relatives that joined the Army, and I just, via essay, I was like, "Oh, let me go represent in the Navy." But yeah, then I joined the Navy. Yeah.
You
Malolava,
actually
thing out
go ahead.
late. No, just before we get too far on, I just wanted to say congratulations on receiving your doctorate. It's not something small. It's a significant degree that most folks cannot attain. So before we go further on, I just want to make sure I extend that congratulations to you
Thank
on such a
you.
great milestone you've achieved. Yep.
Thank
Go ahead, Lasso.
you.
So sorry, Arlington. Um, you actually joined in Hawaii because I know that was it when you were in California? Where did you join the military from after getting your bachelor's? But I know that it's difficult to get into the Navy in Samoa, I bet. So you joined it outside of Samoa?
Who me? Oh yeah, no. I joined out of California.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up in California?
No, no, I grew up in Hawaii, born and raised. And then when I graduated high school, I graduated from Waipahu back in '04. Um, then we moved up to California. Like I I told my parents, like, look, I'm gonna go school in California. And then my mom was like, oh, we're all coming with you. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we
I wanted
also
to
have
ask that
yeah.
transition from
Mhm.
being a college student, right? You have that freedom, and then it seems like the military, it's like the opposite spectrum of like college. College is freedom, and
Mhm.
then the choice to join the military. How did those values clash for you when you decided, like once you enter the military, now you're seeing the strict rigidness of the structure. I mean, how did that impact you?
For me, sorry. When I joined, I just put it in my head, like from boot camp, straight from boot camp. Just to listen, kind of like, you're growing up in a Samoan household, just like do as you're told. So whatever the RDCs were telling us to do, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna close my mouth and keep going. And then when I went to my first command, same thing. I was just like, whatever they tell me to do, I just got to follow orders. The only big, like I guess it's a difficulty because I joined really late in the game. Like I joined at 27, and so I commend my leadership at my first command for dealing with me. Like I was an E3, 27, and you know, I knew there was life outside the military. As opposed to people joining right out of high school. Um, I joined and all I heard was, "Oh, there's nothing. You can't do anything outside of this. Like this is what." And I was just like you don't have to lie. Like you just have to set goals. And then it got to a point where it was so bad. My leadership will say something, and because of the rank, I was like, I didn't see the big picture. I didn't understand the big picture. So they would say something, and if it didn't make sense to me, I would like roll my eyes. I'm like, what? Like, I would always question, and but I never got in trouble for that on my first command. Like I never. They just looked at me. They dealt with me, and I want to say it's because they saw like my work ethic, and they understood that like I'm not like an 18-year-old. So when I'm like questioning, they're like, oh well, no, she has a reason. Like maybe she's not understanding what we're saying, but it was. I don't know how they put up with me, but I guess they saw something in me because I left that command as an E5. So I was like, oh yeah. So it was pretty. It was rough, but also not really. Only because you know, like growing up, if I do something, if I don't listen, I would get, if I see it. So I was like, well, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm just gonna, like, I'll complain, but I'll do it. Like, but
Oh, thanks for sharing that. It's such a brave soul. You've answered what I was looking for, just the curiosity of someone, joining at a later age. It's not easy. And
mm-mm.
it paints a picture of like every step that you've shared with us so far to understand you're such a driven person. So uh, I love how you just keep on marching at your own beat. So
Yeah.
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 Janet, I mentioned in the introduction about your message. Every heartbreak comes with a degree. Can you walk us through what you met in your journey?
Um. So, so that's like it's like literally for me. So, the first heartbreak I've ever had, like I was like a little teenager, little moipy, but the feelings were real, like the hurt and the depression, and I was just like, you know what, I can't stay sad forever. So I got back into school because I took a year and a half off of school after my first year, and so I got back into school and I just focused my energy into studies, into my classes. Um, and then next thing you know, I got my bachelor's degree, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like, I was like on another level. And then I joined the Navy. Yeah, I joined the Navy, and then I started dating this other guy, and it went downhill. And that was like the absolute like worst feeling I've ever had. I guess because it's like the first adult relationship I've had. Uh,
Mm.
but then so when that happened, I also went downhill. Like my mental health, it was just like out. And then but when that was happening, I was well into my master's program. And I think I only had about 4 classes left, but I had to pause because like my mind wasn't into it. And I was just like, and then on top of that, I had to PCS. Um,
For
so,
a second, what does PCS mean for
oh,
those
when I
that
had
don't?
to move to another command, another duty station.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it stands for Permanent Change of Station. It's a military acronym.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So once that happened, once I moved, because my first command, I was in Washington State, and then I moved across the country to Virginia. Once I settled down, and I was like, okay, let me get myself together again. So once I started focusing on school again, like school literally picked me out of my mental, my depression, my all of that. Next thing you know, I graduated my master's, um, and then and then I started my doctorate program. This is like 2019, but same thing. Like COVID happened, so it kind of, granted my classes were online, but still it was just like a weird adjustment I had to make, like in everything. Um, and then not only that, I had to move again. And so the third command I was at, it was like it was a weird it was like a weird PCS for me because it was a brand new ship they were building. So I had to move from Virginia to San Diego, and then San Diego to Mississippi, to where the ship was at. And then from Mississippi we had to sail to Hawaii. So it was too many moving pieces. I really had to pause. Like I had to pause school, and being out at sea with the internet, it's not that reliable. So I didn't want to risk my grades. I didn't want to risk anything like dealing with
That's
school.
smart.
So yeah, so I had to pause it, and then got to Hawaii, picked it up again, and I was going through so much, so much with my command. It was just a lot for me, and I did not want to leave the Navy. I just I wanted to get out of that command. I guess I couldn't keep up with the up tempo. I like the constant, like we were always moving. We're always like going out to sea, doing like something, and there wasn't really a pause. There wasn't really like a time to just like breathe kind of thing. And I guess it was too much for me. And then the leadership I had, also it, like by the time I was there, like I made E6 at that command, and I didn't really have um a lot of leadership above me to lean on. And I was like brand new E6, and I was like, I guess I wasn't that confident in myself, in my leadership skills. And when I was, I would always get like talked to, and I'm like, okay, well, it was just too much. And so I had to leave the ship. And then I was I had like all these therapy sessions I had to go through. And then they were like, well, it seems like your anxiety and all of this is it's stemming from the ship. And I was like, yeah, it is. And they're like, yeah, so you're good to go back to the ship. And I was like, what? Like, what are you saying? They're like, yeah, we can't take you out of that ship. And I was like, well, and oh, they said something, they couldn't take me out of the Navy. And I was like, I don't want to get out the Navy. I like, you can put me, I lived literally what I told them. I was like, you can put me on any ship that's out there, on a carrier that's out in the Fifth Fleet, which is like the Middle East, on deployment right now, and I would gladly take it. I would go to any command. I don't want to leave the Navy. And
Mm.
they were like, well, that's not how this works. And I was like, yeah, get me out, because it's either I stay in and I lose myself, and I honestly, I was like, if I stay in, there will be no me kind of thing. And they were like, oh, and I was like, yeah, so I'd rather be out than like, and then that's the heartbreak because I had to leave the Navy. And when I left, I stayed with my sister for a couple months and I felt so lost. Like when they packed up my things because I was in Hawaii and because I had one more the Navy moved my stuff to my home of record, which where I joined out of was California. So I remember when they packed up my stuff and they nailed, all of that. Like I was in tears. I was like, I don't know where to go from here. Like I don't sorry, just thinking about it kind of like puts me back there. But I was really sad. I was like, dang, I spent 10 years of my life and like I was set like my goal was retirement. I wanted to be an officer. I wanted to do so much. And then but that God had other plans for me. So when I moved to my sister, I was living out of two suitcases, the big suitcases. My sister's like, you can unpack. I was like, no, no, no. This is gonna motivate me to get out. And she's like, you can sleep in the room. I was like, no, I'm sleeping on the couch because I'm
Oh,
not gonna stay here for long. And then I got the job that I have now, and I focused more on school, and that's where I'm at now. Like I just started the job I've been at. I've only been there for a year, but now, like fast forward a year later, well, 2023, 2 years of being out the Navy, and I've got my doctorates. That's where that heartbreak is like, okay, I so every, and I also told my family this, like, I, it's not for everyone. I know it's hard, but going through like depression and stuff like that, what picked me up, what my advice was school. School always picked me up because I felt better about myself. Every class I passed, every grade I got, every degree I got, I felt better about myself. So that was my little pick me up. Every time I felt sad, I was like, nope, school is gonna make me feel better. Like, but yeah, that's where that whole thing, the
Yeah.
saying, what I put up on there, that's where that came from.
You brought up a good point, and I'm trying to relate. I think we mentioned this on a previous podcast. I shared with Leaso part of being in the military. The As you climb the ranks, you lose more and more folks that you can share your problems with, and once you reach a certain rank, you can't really share the struggles you're going through because they're expecting you to be able to, right, to control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you mentioned, I need help, they look at you as, okay, are you fit to lead? So the tendency then turns back to us as, well, let me just close my window of speaking to others, right? And then that's where, like what you're explaining now, it starts to grow and it starts to affect you mentally because you have no one to talk to. Where's my supporting cast?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this support the military is supposed to offer me? I mean, we say we have advocate programs in the military to help folks, but then the minute you bring these issues forth, it's not really. Sometimes just don't work, and I'm sad that it didn't work out in your case. But uh, without looking back, it turned out to be a good thing. It helped you achieve a greater goal, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I asked earlier. Um, Joining the military, it's not the freedom that people think of because now you're exchanging that freedom to to the military needs, and I'm glad it worked out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I I I remember when I first joined, and I would always call my mom and I would vent to her, like whatever that's going on the ship. I would always vent to her, and she would have like, oh, así sin fea que ando. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, no, no. Like, I'm just trying to release. I'm just trying to, I don't regret, like, till this day, I don't regret joining. But, like, that's true. Like, when you climb the ranks, like, there's really not a lot of people you can lean on when the higher you get. Um, and, like, for a person like me, I'm so out, like, it's like, I don't want to say outspoken, but like when I was in my the people I work with, I'm so open. But but then I realized like oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And then when I would talk to my leadership, it was just weird. It was just a different, like I wasn't used to it. And then that's true. I asked for help. Matter of fact, I did ask for help. Um, and I was told like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. And I'm like, how do you know that I'm fine when I'm asking for help? And then it kept going. I think a month of me like asking, and then became serious. And I was like, no, you like, I need to go because like you guys weren't listening. Like, so I found help while I was in, and then like it was a huge adjustment when I got out. And it's true because like there really isn't that much freedom when you're in, but the freedom, like everything, like people see the what you get afterwards, right? Like you get
Hmm.
like your disability, or you get like the medical, like the VA. um you get the VA loan, you get the GI Bill. They're like, oh, that must be nice. I'm like, but you guys have no idea what I had to go through.
Right.
Like the struggle I had to deal with. Like it's, yeah, it's nice
Right.
to have now, but
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah.
to walk in your shoes and experience the sacrifices that you're making, the
Mm,
stress that you're doing. It's not an 8 hour job. It's
yeah.
12, 14 hours. So
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of stress put on you. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
You have to ask about, with you being in the Navy and on the ship for months and right? Um, was it just, were you the only Polynesian on there? And
uh on my first ship, I wasn't.
okay.
On my first ship, I wasn't the only. I'm very thankful for all of them. um, and and on top of that, I was on a carrier, so it's like a big floating city. So it was nice seeing other Polynesians. Like as soon as we saw like a new one, we're like, hey, there's another. We need to go talk to that person. And I remember one of my friends. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I saw him. It was a Tongan guy. Um,
Mhm.
I remember when I saw him on the mess decks, I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, hey, are you Polynesian? And I think I thought I scared him because I was like, yo, there's a few of us on the ship. Here's my number. If you need anything, hit me
Mhm.
up. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he asked for my number again. And I was like, what the heck? Like I gave it. And then he started avoiding me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I scared him. Like, but then like one of the underways, he came around and he was just like, sis, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, I thought I scared you. He's like, no, I was embarrassed because I kept losing your number. I didn't want to ask again. And I was like, what the heck? But yeah, there are quite a few of us. There's a few Samoans. Like we still keep in touch to this day. Samoans, Fijians, Tongans on that first ship I had. But then my second command, I feel like yeah, I was the only Polynesian in that command. But to me, it didn't really bother me too much.
Mhm.
But then because I feel like because I was on shore, so I could easily call my family, call my friends. Um, I wasn't out to sea with no connections and anything. But
Yeah.
my last command, I was well. There was the Afakasi, but his job always like he always had to be in like his area, so I rarely saw him. But yeah, I felt so alone on that ship. Like in a sense where I'm the only Polynesian. Like I'm the only, and we were going to Hawaii. And so I was like, as long as I get there, I have my family again. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you feel like your upbringing has helped you get through these phases in the military? Were those upbringings able to give you strength, because it was just you on that ship that you felt like you being alone. How was that for you?
um, I honestly, I just dived into work, just kept myself busy. Um, because as my job on the ship, I was a logistics specialist, so in supply.
Mhm.
So there's always something to do. So I kind of stayed busy with that. If I wasn't doing that, I was reading. I was like, it was either one or the other. So, but yeah. that helped me. And emails. I was always emailing my sister. So just keeping in touch like that. Because there's no, I couldn't call out. Like there was,
Yeah.
yeah, and I could barely go on like social media. Actually, I didn't go on social media because I forgot my password. So it was just strictly emails. But yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
So um in total there's like 10 of us.
Wow.
But like from my dad there's 10. But like my mom, like there's 4 of us. I'm my mom's oldest. But
Yeah. You're
mhm.
very close to your sister with all her, was it 5 kids?
uh the 4 of us, like for my
Mhm.
mom's, like yeah, I'm close, very close to my sister. Oh yeah, yeah, sorry, I'm just like, yeah, my sister, the one with the 5 kids, I'm very close to her. Well, I would like to think she's close to me too, but yeah, I that's who I'm always talking to her about random things. I'm just like, hey, what are you doing? And I'll tell her about like, oh yeah, work was so boring, like stuff that she probably couldn't relate to, but I'm just like, no, I
Mhm.
just want to talk. Like, but yeah.
You have to
Well, I
tell me
wanted to
about your
ask
doctorate.
you.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
wanted to ask you the degree field that you got into, right? Like a business background. Was that a passion of yours? Is that why you pursued business?
uh so um my mom, she was an accountant. So I wanted to be just like her. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to be an accountant. And then I remember was it my first or second year of college? I told her, I was like, Mom, I think I want to do psychology. I want to like major in psychology. And she's like, for what? I was like, because I want to learn. I want to be a psychologist. I want to be a counselor. She's like, oh, there's no money in that. Go finish accounting. And I was like, okay. So I just stuck with it. And accounting, it makes sense to me. Like the numbers, like the checks and balances, everything just made sense to me. So I just stuck with it.
Good
Yeah.
job, mom. Good job.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mom
Yeah.
seems to be the straight shooter type of person, like, like, "Hey, nope, get it done. Let's wipe your tears. Let's get over it. Let's move on."
Hmm. Yeah, that's my mom. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we asked last night, what was the most challenging subject that you faced throughout, whether it's your undergrad or master's?
It was honest. It was between statistics and business law.
Hmm.
It was like my most difficult classes, and that was my undergrad. Oh, actually, I had to take statistics again during my master's, but yeah, like I got through it. I passed it, but it was just very, very.
Mhm.
It was hard for me to like retain. Like
Mhm.
business law. They have all the terminology. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the most difficult. And statistics, it was just, I don't know what it was about that class. I was just confused a lot of times.
Do
Too
they
much
still push like
probability. That's what it was.
ethics?
But yeah, I had to take ethics. Yep.
Yeah. What do you feel about that one?
Um, to me, it made sense. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, but then to me, I was like, in those classes, I was like, but isn't this common sense not to do this? Like, but yeah, it
Well,
was
yeah, because
interesting.
there was a resurgence, I think, like when we went to school, I think in the 90s,
Mhm,
with the fall of MCI and Enron.
mhm,
Ethics wasn't a big thing the business colleges were teaching.
mhm,
So with all those, busts, they
mhm,
they started to emphasize ethics. And you sit in there and you're looking at all these business cases, y- and kind of like what you're saying now, isn't that common sense? Well, it wasn't at the time. I mean,
yeah,
people were like cutthroat. I mean, that's what business colleges were. If
mhm,
you didn't have that in your blood to be cutthroat, step on each other, if you didn't have that within you, then
mhm.
this is not the field you should be in. But I'm glad to see that they've implemented and they're still enforcing, business ethics in those colleges. Yeah.
Yeah. Even during my one of my classes for my doctorate's program, it was one of them I think was corporate responsibility and
Mhm,
like business ethics. But yeah, I'm glad they're still pushing it too because
mhm.
I'm guessing some people still want to do all that. Like, yeah,
The temptation is always there. I mean, you're there to make money because,
Yeah.
like
exactly.
you said, it's the risk versus reward.
Hmm.
But try to do it ethically.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. I forgot. I don't know if I forgot the name of the accounting firm that was a part of that 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 dealt with Enron, but I know it starts with an A, but we did study that in school.
Mm.
Um, in regards to the statistics, I'm thinking that a lot of the reason why it didn't make sense, well, for me, there was too much probability formulas.
Yeah,
You know, it's like probability of what? Why?
yeah.
Okay.
Like, why am I doing
It's
this?
so
I don't.
stressed.
What is this? But yeah, it was. But the other class that it wasn't hard. It was just like I didn't like it. It was marketing. I don't know
Especially,
why. It was. I think it's just like the whole idea of like, oh, I have to go out there and kind of like market this and like I'm like, no, I don't. If you want to buy it, then buy it. Like I'm
Cold
so
calls
bad.
and sales. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't want to. I don't want. And I would tell my dad. My dad's like, oh, that's my bread and butter. And I was like, I'm sure it was because you sold cars and a lot of stuff back in the day. Like
Mhm.
you're good at it. I'm not.
No, I
Yeah,
loved it
sure.
because we always had like a new product, right? And so
Mhm.
he'll say, "Here's a product." So you and your team sell it.
Yep.
So you have to be creative, and it'll be something like this. Hey, there's a new product online that's called, guava. How are
Mhm.
you gonna break the market? How do you sell something like that in a market that's already saturated and dominated by the big names?
Mhm.
And but like today, if you're I know like for folks like me that are always trying to make a buck on the side, you're always trying to sell something, but how do you make it so unique to where others will buy your product? You're not trying to compete with the main brands, but you're just trying to find a niche out there that you can exploit. Hmm.
I could tell you, like, one tip is to start with your family. Say, hey, I don't
Mhm.
care if you don't like it, push it out there for me. Kind of like
Exactly.
what we do with
Yep.
social media, right? Just throw it
Mhm.
out there, pretend that it's good, it tastes
Yeah.
good. You're eating the air. Air costs $5. It's the best seller you can get.
Yeah.
I want to spend years on this subject, but I want to ask about the road trip that you took with your mom and I believe your sister and nieces and nephew. I think you took that road trip from California all the way down to Louisiana or somewhere around the.
Oh, to Mississippi. Oh yeah, it was me and my mom. That's when
What was
like
that?
when I had to check in to San Diego, then I was only here for like 2 months in Cali,
Wow.
and they were like, "Hey, you're gonna be part of the group that's gonna go to Mississippi now." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Then I packed up my stuff, and well, the Navy came and packed up my stuff, and I loaded up my car with the essentials, and then I was gonna do that trip by myself, but my mom's like, "No, I'll go with you," and I was like, "Ah,
Oh,
okay, cool." I
how was
drove I
that
drove the
ride?
whole way, but she was right there with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that ride with you and your mom? Did you guys build up a stronger, well, I'm sure you have a strong relationship, but how was it for the both of you on your journey?
It was good. It was good. To be able to be with my mom during that time, it was nice. Um, but I remember there was this one stop this because we were in Texas. There's like, we were on the 10. And then there's
Yes.
this there's this because there's nothing in between. I can't remember. Is it San Antonio and
To
Houston?
Louisiana.
Yeah, on the way down there, there's like
Uh,
that long stretch where there's nothing,
right.
like, right? So, I remember we had to pull in to get gas. This is at night, and we had to get gas, and that was like the next stop was the gas station. And my mom, like, she was really tired, and she like, oh, why don't we stay here for the night? Now it's dark and everything, and there's like this random little. It wasn't even a hotel chain. It was just like a
Yeah.
motel. She's like, yeah, let's just stay here. I was like, Mom, no, we're not doing that.
Mm-mm.
She's like, but I'm tired and you've been driving the whole time. I was like, I'm fine. I'm
Mhm.
like, we gotta keep going
Keep
until we get,
going.
yeah, to a big city. And she's like, why? I was like, like it's too dark and we're in Texas. Like I don't know this state. I don't know this area. And then she's like, oh, okay. She hopped in the car and then I forgot who she was talking to. And she's like, yeah, I'm from my channel, and I was like, there, I was like laughing. I was like, yeah, Mom, we don't want to get snatched over here. But it was nice, and for my mom to kind of like see that, it's not safe everywhere.
Mhm.
um it was fun. And then for her to like go to those states too, because I don't think she's ever been, that was her first time driving that far through states. And it was a nice memory, a nice experience. Yeah.
I think we took that same route. I'm gonna share real quick, like on IPCS from Oklahoma to Georgia. So I took
Mm,
took the route down to Texas, and my daughter Talia, she was a few months old. So I think we get to Mobile, and it's the
mm,
same thing like what you guys went through. We needed a rest. The best hotel was like up on a hill, which is curves, and I'm driving this 26-footer Ryder truck, and I'm pulling a trailer with my, you know, SUV in the back, and
mm,
there's no way I can make it up there. So there's this like beat up hotel chain, motel chain, and we get there, and it was kind of like how you described it. The door had bullet holes on it. There's no remote, and you walk in, and the picture frame is like bent sideways. And I looked on the bed sheets. It looked gross. And I look at my wife and daughter, and I felt so bad. I'm like, this is not what we're gonna do tonight.
mm.
It was bad enough, like even the keychain it had like a big stick on there. It's like at the it's almost like you're at a gas station.
Oh
So I
my.
went back, told the lady, hey, I want a refund.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? I made it up that hill with that truck.
Nice.
We ended up staying in that nice hotel. It's like
Mm-hmm.
what you just described right there kind of brought up memories when we did our first PCS. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
It's
moves are always interesting though.
Yeah, like the first PCS I did from Washington State all the way to Virginia. One of my friends that was on the ship with me, she's like, "Oh, I'll go with you." So she took leave just to drive with me, and we did that in one day. Like we
Mm.
didn't. The only time we stopped was for gas, and we would switch off. I would be sleeping, and it was, I felt like it was rushed, but then at the same time, it was nice to like be able to rest and wake up and we're still on the road. But yeah, that was fun. And then, but the when I moved from Virginia, when I drove down to California, my friend, she just retired from the Air Force last year. She took leave to do that trip with me. That trip was nice because well, actually no, that wasn't, she actually came with me to do that trip because I had to drop off my car to my
Mhm.
mom. Like I was like, "Here, mom." So she did that. That trip was nice because we took our time, and so we stopped in Georgia to my cousin that lives out there. We stopped in Louisiana to New Orleans. That was my first time there. It was pretty nice. And then my auntie, she came to do the PCS drive with me, but instead of going down, we kind of went sort of in the middle. Like we stopped in Arkansas, we stopped in South Carolina, then Georgia, and then Arkansas because my cousin was going to college out there, so we stopped there. And then we drove through Oklahoma. I was like, man, there it looks pretty, but I was like, there's
Hey,
really
don't say anything
nothing.
bad about Oklahoma.
Oh, it looks pretty, right? Like, and like the day driving through. And then I was like, this is really nothing out here. I gotta keep. But we stopped in Oklahoma. We stopped. There's this place. It's called Pops. It was
Yeah.
so nice. Like all these like different sodas. I was like, oh, this is the
Hmm.
spot. And then we kept pushing. But we did that route because I didn't want to go down through Texas. I wanted to go through the panhandle of Texas. Like, but that was fun too. But no.
You guys ended
Um,
up in Louisiana, right? And so how was that? You know how everything everything changed from the landscape, and then you get to Louisiana, and it's like, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? What was that for you?
It was interesting. Even my first time in Louisiana. Oh, sorry, I gotta tell this story. The first time we went to Louisiana, with me and my friend, um, she was like, "Oh, let's go to New Orleans." Like both of our first times there, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm following the maps, right? And the hotel we got was on Bourbon Street, it was like right at the corner. So
Wow.
we're going towards the hotel, and we end up like behind this car, like in a it was like an alley, it was in the back alley somewhere. And I'm looking at my friend, I'm like, yo, I think they're arguing. I think the people in front of us, I think they're arguing. She's like, no, they're not. And I was like, no, I think they are. And then they came out of the car. It was like they came out of the car and they were just like yelling. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. And then there was a kid that was there. The kid came out and then it walked, and I was like, what the? So we slowly inched our way around the car, and then we went to the hotel, and then we we wanted to get something to eat, so we just walked Bourbon Street, and there was this guy. You know how they have the beads? So the guy came up with the beads. He's like, "Oh, here," and we're like, "No, no, 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 thank you." He's like, "No, you have to experience," and we're like, "No, no, thank you." And he's like, "No, here, try it on." And so he puts it on us, and then he's like, "Oh, where's my money?" And we're like, "Oh no, we don't have cash." He looks like, "Give me back my beads." I'm like, "Dude, we didn't want this." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't like this place." And then the hotel we were at, there was a roach, and I was like, "I hate this. I hate." My friend is just like, "But it's the experience." I was like, "I hate New Orleans. I don't like." But the food is
Yes.
is so good. I
Yes.
like love the food, but
Hmm.
I don't. I think I've had my fair share of being in New Orleans. I'm like, it's cool, but I'm good. I don't think I want to go back.
It's a different kind of heat over there, isn't it? Like you
It
just sweat. Yeah.
sweat, like you're just humid. And I remember when I was in Mississippi, because it's the same thing, the humidity. One of the Filipino guys on the ship was like, well, aren't you from Hawaii? Isn't it humid in Hawaii? And I was like, but there's always wind. Like
Mm.
we have nice, wind
Fragrance.
winds.
Yeah.
Like, no. But
And then
yeah,
Louisiana has those big flies. They're about like this. Like, yeah.
there's the bugs out there are crazy. Yeah. And I can't even deal like with road type. In Samoa and even in Hawaii, there's the roaches and stuff. Like I don't like those. Like so any other bugs, I'm like, no, thank you. But yeah.
I want to talk about, the purchasing of your new home that you bought for your parents. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Um so the my parents, they were saying, because they're always, well, my mom always going back and forth Samoa to Upolu and here. Because my mom's mom lives in Upolu. So every time they're here in California, they stay with my sister. And so my dad, ever since, so it's been a few years now, like he has a trach, so he can't really travel. He can't go with my mom to Samoa, so he stays with my sister. And so like when I got out the Navy, and like my dad, I think he was in the hospital at the time, and I just felt so bad. I felt like, my sister has 5 kids, and like, 4 boys, 1 girl, and I was like, my niece, she needs her own room, like yeah, she was sharing a room with her brothers, but it's like when you're a girl, you can't room with the boys, like when you start growing up and stuff. So I told my sister, I was like, no, I'm going to start looking. Matter of fact, I started looking at houses before I even told my family, because I didn't want to put it out there and it
Mhm.
didn't fall through. So I was like, I'm just gonna see what happens. And then I got pre-approved. The VA, I used the VA loan. I got pre-approved, and then I really started looking. And then once I got my realtor, that's when I told my family, like, hey, you guys want to come with me, like, to look at houses? So my other sister, she lives in Washington. She came out with me, actually walked through like a few houses, and then we came to this one, And I was like, no, I think this is gonna be the one, you know. So my as soon as that happened, I told my parents like, oh, I got us a house. Like, so yeah, that was it was really nice. And to hear my dad, like, you know, my dad is like in his late 70s now. And I just remember when they finally settled down, like, you know, over here and everything, he was like, you know, thank you so much. You know, and I'm happy that you know, at least when I leave, when I die, at least I know, like, I've seen this happen in my lifetime. And I was like, oh, dad, like, dad. Whenever he talks like that, I'm like, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're gonna live forever. Like, but yeah, he loves it here, and I'm very grateful for that. And it's funny because I think other people were like, "Oh, you've always wanted to get a house for your parents." I'm like, I don't remember saying that, but I'm glad you guys remember that. But yeah, that's
You
that.
have, I was going through your photos and videos, and um, you have such a good support system with your family. Or doing our test run last night, you mentioned how you were surprised of a graduation party.
Yes, yes. My sister and her husband, they did all of that. They like I invited the people. Well, it was just family and like a few coworkers, but they threw the whole party thing. And it was my first graduation party ever. I've never had a grad party. It was always I think like high school graduation. I just went to Jack in the Box after. That was literally it. And then I think when I got my bachelor's, we went to a buffet.
Mhm.
And then I got my master's, we just went to a Korean barbecue. But so this one, I told my family, like, actually, I even told him, I was like, you know what? Because I was stressing out about it. Because I already invited people and people already paid for their fares. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to do something. So I was like, oh, we'll do a party here in the back. Like we have a huge backyard. And then I was like, oh no, that's too much. Like the cost was going way too high. And I was like, no. And I was like, oh, why don't we? And then I told my sister, I think I'm gonna make bentos for everyone. And she was like, what? I was like, I think I'm just gonna pack bentos and be like, thank you so much for coming. And she's like, that is ghetto.
I
No.
like it.
Huh?
Nothing wrong with pencils. I take it.
Yeah, I was like, just simple. And she was like, what? No, that's not for a doctorate's degree. And I was like, what? Like, that is for a doctorate's degree. And then I was like, okay, never mind. You know, she was like, what about a restaurant? I was like, you know what? Yeah. So I started looking at for restaurants, hitting them up. And then I told my sister, and she was like, you better not put a down payment. I'm like, what? Like, I have to put a deposit. I have to. She's like, if you give them money, we are not coming. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, you just tell me what's going on. I was like, oh, okay. So I sent her all the info. And then I was still stressing out because like I kept thinking about the number of people coming.
Mhm.
And then my close friends, they would tell me, stop stressing out, stop worrying about everything. And my sister's like, just stop, just stop. And I was like, what? Yeah, who's planning? Like, I have to plan. Like, and I'm such a
Yes.
control freak. Like, I want to know what's happening. So I was stressing, and they kept telling me, stop, stop. And then my friends are like, you know, let your family deal with it. I'm like, no, I don't want them to go out of pocket for anything. Like, because I was like, my sister, she has 5 kids. My mom, like, she has, you know, my grandma to worry about, my grandma and my dad. And then my other sister, she has her own thing, you know, that she has to worry about. And I was like, I don't want anyone stressing over me. Like, that's not a thing. Like, I need to worry about things, you know.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, I walk in and it's like a whole full blown party. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yeah, it turned out really nice. It was like nice, small, and intimate. It was just family too. So it was really nice. Yeah.
I wanted to
I know.
ask you, with your, such a great achievement of receiving your doctorates, how do we normalize that? How do we push the next generation of Polynesians or Samoans to continue to push towards that doctorate degree? Like, don't stop at a bachelor's, don't stop at a master's. what's your advice to the folks that are out there who are contemplating, do I continue with a career field or just push forward beyond that master's degree and you too can achieve a doctorate degree? Like, what can you share with us?
Um, Honestly, like just keep going. Like, like just it's hard. Yeah, it's hard work, but like if I can do it, and I'm not the only one too, there's other Samoans that did it, you know, you can do it too. Like just especially if they're contemplating it. Like, if you're thinking about it, just just do it, like it's easier said than done, but it's like just go for it, because that's with me too. Like I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to go past the bachelor's, but
Mhm.
just pray on it. And if to me, if it's in your heart, if it's your desire, then why question it? God put that desire in you. Just move forward. And in the hard times, like the hard classes you think is too much, is just pray. Like it's crazy, because that's also how I got through. Like I would be down on my knees, just like crying, like, why am I? And then on top of that, don't be afraid to take pause, like to pause. Like if life
Mhm.
is happening, you can just pause, like say, hey, I need to take a break, I need to step back from my classes, I'll come back, the next quarter or the next semester. Like it's okay to take a pause. Like my doctorate's program was literally, it was supposed to be 3 years, but it took me from 2019, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. It took me 6 years to get through it, because I kept, like, whenever I was moving, whenever like stuff was happening in my life, I had to pause. I was like, I'm not gonna overstress myself. So like my uh I lost. Sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay.
The word I was gonna say, but just keep going, keep pushing through. Like life is hard, right? But no matter what you choose in life, it's hard. So you might as well choose the right hard that you want to deal with, and then on top of that, just think about like walking across that stage wearing like this nice Harry Potter looking robe. You got it. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing. You're such a great inspiration for others. And I told you last night, um, what you've achieved is something that I'm not ashamed to point that out. Like I'm envious of your accomplishment. So I will always say congratulations and salute to you. And I forgot to mention earlier, thank you for your service as well.
Mhm.
That
Oh, you
being a
too. Thank
vet,
you for
yeah.
your
So,
service.
So,
I want to go back to the VA loan. Can you
Yeah.
share with some of our military folks who have never experienced that process?
Um,
mm,
how did that? I think so. I went online to the VA website, and then what did I do? I think I did like a COE. I forgot what that stands for. Um, Basically, it says, it'll say if
Yeah.
you're qualified for.
Yeah, it's a certificate of eligibility to
Yeah,
verify that you have served in the military for a certain period of time. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So like that, I know I had to do that, but the first thing I did, I went through Navy Fed, because I'm like with Navy Fed, and I just applied for a home loan, and I got pre-approved. And the person that was trying to work with me, like that person was just like pushing me aside, and I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna go somewhere else. And I honestly, I forgot where I went, or no, I didn't reach out to anyone. Century 21, the veteran, reached out to me. I guess somewhere along the lines of me putting in an application, I guess it just went out to everyone. I don't know how that happened, but he reached out to me and he said, um, like, I can help you out, but that's really all I did. I just went online to the VA website and to the home loan, and I whatever it was, anything that said home loan, I just kept clicking and applying. But that's what I did. It's It was a rough, not really rough. It was just like the anticipation of
Mhm.
it, and just seeing, because like I thought I had horrible credit, but they were like, "Oh no, you're good for this amount," and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And the struggle was looking for a house
Mhm.
within that price, and not getting distracted by the houses that were above that price.
Mhm.
And then yeah, it was a fun experience. Like, just being able to walk through the houses and be like, "Oh, this is happening," and then to like find something that you like and not settle for.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's I'm sorry. I don't have I don't know why I can't even remember how I
Uh,
came about the
it's a
VA.
good point. I think because like a lot of veterans don't understand that process,
Mhm,
and there's a few tidbits, just to share. There's programs the city or the state will offer, and like city bonds, right? If you're
mhm,
not familiar with those, as you're going through the loan process, ask those lenders, are there any city bonds that I can that I'm eligible for? So they'll have, for instance, like for our city in Norman, Oklahoma, sometimes they'll offer veterans, do you want to take the lowest interest rate available? Or the other option is, 5,000 down, like they'll give you 5 grand, based on your income.
mhm.
So, it can sort of offset some of those early mortgage issues that, you know, as you're
Yeah,
trying to set up your loan. But,
yeah,
you have to ask them. They won't tell you yet to ask.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my realtor, he did, like, he didn't tell me what he was doing, but he got a bunch of, like, I didn't have any down payment. Like, the last homeowners, they paid me to take the house, which was pretty cool. And he I'm sure the realtor like explained like what thing that he was applying, and I was just like, "Oh, cool." I don't know what it was, but it was a bunch of them were because I'm a veteran,
Mhm.
and that was pretty. And I think home, what's it called, Navy Fed, they had a thing too, and he was tied into it, that gave me, like, I think it was 10,000, 20,000 back, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty nice." But yeah, there are a lot. It's just like, just got to do a bunch of research, and yeah, ask a lot of questions. Even ask a realtor a lot of questions, and hopefully they get a veteran realtor that'll look out. Yeah.
So
Can we talk
I
about
mean,
financial
go ahead.
literacy? Our
Mhm.
people, financial literacy, well, not just our people, just in general. Is that
Mhm.
something that we need to educate our younger folks with?
Yes, that is definitely something. Like, I wish I knew that growing up. But like my dad, I would always see him. He used to run the finances in the family. He would always be, but like, he was always budgeting, and I would always look. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so boring. Like, why are you doing that? Like, that seems so." But here I am. I have my own spreadsheet, and it's important. Like, you go to work and you get paid, and it's so easy to be like, "Oh, this money is in the bank, I'm gonna go spend it," but they're not realizing there are bills coming. Like, and these bill collectors do not stop. Like, they don't care what you got going on, they're gonna come after you. um but it's very important for people to understand, especially the not just the Samoan community, but Polynesians in general, like, um to put that in mind, like, to have your bills paid before you pour out into the community, into your family, because we're so used to, all these falaves come through, and they're like, "Oh, you got to put in this much." I'm like, "Oh, but what about the rent? What about the mortgage? What about the food?"
Amen.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, I'm like, "No, no, no, this is due now." Like, and which is funny because that just happened today when my mom. So I guess they were having a plate sale, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna pay for four," and I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm gonna pay for one." And she's like, "You can do it," and I was like, "So according to my calculations, I can't afford to, like, I mean, granted, I can, but then I was like, that would tie me up until the next paycheck, and I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. Like growing up, that's how it was. Which,
Hmm.
like, I don't look down on people that do, like, sometimes that just it is that's how it
Hmm.
happens. But me growing up like that and seeing how my parents struggle, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to live life like I cannot afford anything at the moment. So I had to tell her like, mortgage is coming and my car note. I kind of can't do that. She's like, oh, I get it. I was like, yeah, but the gas, like, because it takes me 3 hours to get to work. And I was just like, yeah, I gotta. But it's going back to it. Like, it's very important for at least understand it at a young age. Maybe like, I don't know, when they get their first job, or not even that. Like, even as kids, like, when they, like how you mentioned, like the cash out, like just to be like, hey, like, you don't want to spend all your, and that's what I'm hoping to teach my nephews and my niece, like, hey, your job right now is to get good grades. And I'm like, every A you get, I'm gonna give you 20. But at the end of the school year, and I gave them the option, either you can use the money or I save it for you, for, in the bank. And like, even with that, I'll have like I have a spreadsheet already for them, because my sister sends me like their birthday monies, and I put that, and she's like, I remember she asked for one of the money back, like the I think it was 100. She's like, hey, yeah, can I get the 100? He wants to buy clothes. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure you want this? Like, does he really need clothes? And my sister's like, I don't like this bank. And I'm just trying to set them up for, like, because like my goal is to like have all of that, and then when they're, graduate high school, that's like their graduation money. Like, here you go, this is what I've been saving, this is actually your money. But I'm hoping, more Polynesians that, understand the importance of financial literacy, and
Yeah.
not
Thank
not
you for sharing. It was, you know, it's the change of our mindset. And God bless our parents. We can't blame them. It's because it's what they were taught, and that's that generation.
Mhm,
But we're talking about our generation and the next generation. We're trying to set up the next generation to change that mindset. What our parents, what was the norm to them, and the comfort of them living, like you said, paycheck to paycheck.
mhm,
Yeah, you're describing almost like my family, and I think that also describes most of the Samoan families. We're
mhm.
all experiencing exactly what you're talking about, but we don't want our kids to go through that, and we're trying to change
Yeah,
that. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Mhm,
So I have to say, like, you just going back to what we discussed earlier today in regards to your life challenges. I feel like it was meant for you to go through these things.
mhm,
It really helped make you stronger. And I feel like I don't think I've ever met anyone that never had a mental breakdown or go through those mental challenges, because it's real,
yeah, mhm,
and so and it's one of those things where in someone culture it's kind of like, get over it, just move
yeah,
on.
mhm,
And I really like how you talked about you you stayed with your sister. You had two big luggages, but you didn't want to open it.
mhm,
That was to motivate you to move out. We
mhm,
have so many people who will take that and be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna settle down and relax.
mhm,
But I always like tell my kids, like, don't ever get comfortable in anything you do,
mhm,
ever, because there's always room for growth. There's always room to be better. And
mhm.
so, with that said, I wanted to ask you, if you could look back in your life, it doesn't matter, childhood, adult, teenage, whatever, is there anything that you could have done differently and why?
Honestly, um, not really. And I only say that because all of that brought me to where I am. Just like you said, all of that helped shape me as a person who I am today, and it got me all the struggles, all of that, everything I went through. brought me to this place, like, in this new house, my degree. Like, if I didn't go through that, I don't know what path I would have been on. So, um, I'll probably, yeah, no, like, there were times where I would think about that, like, oh, like maybe if I did, I would tell myself like, hey, stop crying, stop. But then through all of that, it helped me become stronger. So I'm like, yeah. And
Your nieces and nephews, say they go through what you're going through, right? And when they get to that point, um, mom to you was very tough.
oh
If they say, like, I'm gonna call auntie, I need some advice, what would you say to your nephew or nieces in those circumstances?
yeah, mm, like if they were going through, if they, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. If any of them ever go through whatever I went through, I would be there to support them, whatever their decision is. Like, I would be there, and I would tell them, like, it life doesn't stop here. It's this isn't, it always oh, I forgot what the saying is. There's always sunshine after the rain. There's always. And if you're down and out, it's not over. There's something after that. You're always um yeah. And then on top of that, God always has a plan. Like like there in Jeremiah 29:11, he's like, he has a plan for all of us. Um Sorry, someone's knocking on the door. Um but yeah, and everything happens for a reason. It sucks. It, like, I would tell them straight up, yeah, I know it sucks, but you got to keep going, you got to keep pushing. Don't give up on life, don't give up on your goals or anything. Like, I'll be there to support you all the way. Yeah.
Okay, so also in regards to love life, for a lot of the women out there who are struggling and feeling like they need to be with someone, which everybody deserves to be with someone, right?
Mm,
Um, for those out there who are needing to be with someone, what is your advice to them? Because you were able to find an outlet, you were able to channel this, the challenges you went through
mm.
and make something better out of it. So what would you say to those who are going through that?
uh those who are single and want to be with someone, uh enjoy single life. Like, you don't need anyone. I'm so sorry. I'm only saying that because I'm single. I've been single forever. Like, but going through all the heartbreak. But now, just embrace it. Embrace
Mhm.
it. And you really don't, like, yeah, you want to be with someone. Don't ever think that you need to be with someone, especially female.
Mm.
You don't need that. Um, but like, I don't, like, I don't, it's not like I don't believe in love. I love love. But you don't want to get caught up in, being involved with someone just because you don't want to be alone. Because then that'll open up the door for more heartbreak. And then you're in a situation where you're like, dang, like, I want to leave, but I'm so in love with this person. But it's like, that's the wrong person, because you're not supposed to be hurting like that. But I just want, like, especially for my Samoan girls out there, or Polynesian, matter of fact, any female out there, and guys too. But don't be sad that you're single. Like, go enjoy your life. Go have fun with your friends. Book trips. Finish school. Work out. Like, get your goals. And then somewhere along the way, you're gonna attract someone. Someone's gonna come to you. God, there's there's a there's a lid for every pot. There's someone for everyone out there. So don't even worry. What's the point of worrying about that? Just keep going. Keep enjoying your life.
I have a comment here from Janet. Had you not been through those past experiences, you wouldn't have been able to learn those life lessons. That
That's
is true.
very, very true. Yep, yep.
And we have a lot of people out here that's sending comments of, this is my cousin saying hi to you.
Hello.
Get all the family support.
Right?
Yes.
Man.
Mm. I just lost my track because what you said was that's a very good advice, to tell everyone, especially those who are are thinking that they need to be with someone. But the other thing I wanted to ask too, as far as you mentioned, it's okay to take a break in between classes or whatever career
Mhm,
goals that you're trying to achieve. I'm that type that I need to get it done. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm on the move. I gotta go, I gotta go.
mhm.
But there are times when you do need a break. And so what do you tell, you know, um, people out there, anywhere Polynesia, people, anyone at least, what advice could you give them in a situation where they feel like you mentioned, it's always on your mind, you want to go to school or you want to finish school. What would you say to them? You mentioned just do it, just go. But but for me to see your success, being able to make it through to get your doctorates. And I didn't know that it took you said 6 years?
It took me that
Y-
long
Yeah, like and
with all
you
the
were taking
breaks.
breaks, right?
Yeah.
Just advice to those who you're now watching this podcast and like, wow, you don't have to go straight, like to take it within those straight years that are recommended to get your PhD.
Mhm.
You can take a break. So what would you say to those who are going through challenges, wanting to make a career, but then they can't because they're going through these challenges? What would you say to them?
To take it, one day at a time, like don't overwhelm yourself with all everything. Like, do what you know that you can do, or like no, I don't even know. Like, keep going, but only you know your limit. And you don't want to overwhelm yourself with all, like, say with school, you don't want to like keep going, and then you're mentally drained, you're burnt out, because you got school, you got families, you got work. Like, you don't want to do all of that at once. Granted, a lot of people do, which is kudos to them, but when you feel like you're at that breaking point, then of course take a break. You don't want to, because in the end, like, school is always going to be there for sure. But my thing is, don't, yeah, take a break, but don't stop. Like, don't be like, oh, I took a break and now it's like 2 years, 3 years later, and but just keep going. And yeah, I don't know how else to, that, because yeah, even with everything I was going through, I kept putting stuff off. I kept putting my research off. My mom was like, "Oh, why my dad?" And I'm like, oh, "I'm still doing my paper. Like, I'm still doing this." But like, I could have got it. I wanted to get it done last year because I graduated high school in 2004, and like I wanted the numbers to be like,
Mhm.
I am done with school
Yeah.
20 years later. But I took too long of a like I took too long to finish up my research, and I was like, okay. But yeah, just, and then on top of that, don't be too hard on yourself when you do take a break, when you do take a pause. Don't be too hard on yourself, because those words, like your words to yourself, it sticks too. And you don't want to be too harsh on yourself, but yeah.
Can you share some of the resources for those who are in the military to pursue that education, whether it's your GI Bill or your tuition assistance for those who aren't active duty?
Yeah, there's the tuition assistance for sure. That's available only when you're in, right? They'll have that. Well, I don't know about the other branches, but I know for sure the Navy, while you're in, you have tuition assistance. And then uh there's also the post 9/11. Um like, I was told you can't use that while you're in, but you can if you want to. But I suggest use the tuition assistance while you're in, because you can use the post 9/11 when you get out, and you get
Mhm.
that extra monthly allowance to help with paying the rent, paying mortgage, paying whatever bills. But yeah, there's that. There are also colleges out there. They have the yellow ribbon program going on at colleges. Well, where they match, um, they what is it? They match the tuition or something like that. So basically, you really don't have to pay out of pocket. Um, even those that aren't in the military, like my bachelor's degree, I didn't I didn't have to take out any loans or anything. There's financial aid that's out there. So like, fill out the FAFSA and everything. And, there's the Pell Grant. Um, there's also EOP. I don't know if a lot of schools have that. I forgot.
What is EOP?
Oh, it's Equal Opportunity Program. I think that's what it stands for. But that helped pay for like some of my textbooks. And they also gave me like a little food voucher where I literally like I when I was getting my I was going to getting my associates, they gave me like a little food voucher, and my classes were so like spread out, but I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to tell my dad to come pick me up and then drop me off again. So I stayed at the school and I used that food voucher and I went to the cafeteria and got, how they have little the crackers with the cheese, and that was my lunch. That held me over until I got back home for dinner. But they have that. There's so many programs out there for veterans, especially. They just have to either go on the VA site and like tap into the education and just really just read everything, whatever that pertains to you, and also to the school that you're going to. They'll have veteran programs as well, veteran assistance as well. Yeah.
So I know that your transition, like after that 10-year period, you still had to like transition away from the military.
Mhm.
Although that last command was a painful process, but I know there are some good values that you gained from the military. Like, is there a certain one that sticks out to you that sort of sort of mold who you are today because of that military experience?
Um, uh, just like communication, that goes a long way. And just accountability. I don't know. Like I've learned a lot while I was in, 10 years of my life being in, and just being on top of your task and being accountable for your actions. Like, whatever you do, whether it's good or bad, own up to it. Like,
Mhm.
take pride in your work, and yeah, just I think that's what and the friends you make along the way, you don't want to forget where you came from. You don't want to forget, like, just it's so hard nowadays to keep in touch with people because life happens, and next thing you know, like it's been 5 years, but just the people that helped you get to where you are, like remember them when you get to your goal. Like remember them too, because like for me, like yeah, I got my doctorates, but so did my family. They helped me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like this degree is for them too, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here too. Like all the things I was going through, a lot of my close cousins, my close friends, they heard countless times where I would call and cry and like talk about either stress from school or stress from work, but they helped me along the way. So, or for those that are going through the same thing, like, don't forget your roots, don't forget your family, your friends that have been there for you. Don't like no, like these people were there for you,
Mhm.
but that's my little sorry.
No, I
But
just
do
wanted
we
to, because I didn't
Go
want
ahead.
people to take your message and say, "Oh, she's got a sour taste for the military." I don't
Oh
want that
no.
message to be sent. So I wanted to
Good
capture,
point.
there were a lot of good values, and
Yeah,
she still appreciates, and she gained a lot from the military. So
yeah.
I didn't want people to take
Oh
this the
yeah,
wrong way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I even yeah, even with my last command being like like really hard for me, like I to this I never regret being in. Like I've met a lot of good people, like, friends that I consider family, like good people. And matter of fact, where I work at, I work with the Navy. I work on base. Like I enjoy, like, and I think that helped me too, like with the transitioning, because like I felt lost, like that camaraderie, like it was just.
Hmm.
But now that I got this job, like I feel like I'm still in, which it feels nice. It's like I'm still in, but like I don't have to go to duty, like I don't have to be there for 24 hours, but
Mhm.
it feels nice. So yeah, no, I don't hate the Navy. Like there'll be time, like like when I was in, I'm like, man, I can't stand this, but like I didn't hate it. Like I enjoyed being in because
Right. No, but, like even from us on the army side, like we vent even on Facebook or
yeah,
on social media. EMLMLEA, oh yeah, God dang army.
yeah, yeah,
I'm like, oh, delete. I don't want people to, see
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
We have a comment from Janet. Congratulations, pressing through and not giving up. I admire you for that.
Oh,
Miss Sefa, she's out there. Hey, Miss Sefa, she says hello. Um, Janet, this is the month of Mother's Day is coming up soon.
yeah.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to your mom on video?
Um, hopefully she can hear me. Happy Mother's Day. And thank you for being there for me throughout all these years, like almost 39 years of having me. You know, but yeah, thank you for everything and for putting up with me and my attitude. But yeah,
I'm sure she's proud of your accomplishment. She's played
I
a big role.
Yeah.
this lady, oh my gosh, at the graduation party, she stood up and did a little speech, and it was like she was roasting me. I was like, oh, and then after she would say, she's like, I love you. I was like, mm-hmm. But
It's difficult to avoid parents, right? It's like you do something and you don't know why you go obsessive for that, and then they hug you right
it's like the last thing she said, like after her speech, she's like, oh, our next get together will be Janet's wedding, and I was like, oh my gosh, this lady. And then like my one of my coworkers, she's like, you didn't tell me. I was like, girl, there is no wedding. Like this lady's just cracking jokes right now.
Well, tell mom we need an invitation too. So
Yeah.
send one our
Yeah.
way. Don't forget
When
about
that
us.
happens, I'll send out invitation.
We'll be a road trip from Oklahoma, Texas, straight down to
Yeah.
California. We'll take the back ones.
Oh,
Well, Janet, we are coming close to an end. Arlington, is there anything you would like to say before we end?
No, I really appreciate your beautiful story, not only for yourself, but to extend to your supporting cast and to acknowledge those around you that helped you get to where you're at today. From a Polynesian perspective, it's such a great milestone that I would say few, make it there. So we consider you one of the elites amongst us. I'm not saying, if for you putting one down, but we look highly of you. So congratulations to the family and for all the mothers out there. Early happy Mother's Day. Yeah.
thank you.
Janet, is there anything you'd like to say before we close?
Um, no, for anyone that's going through anything, like mentally, especially, mentally, take the time to take care of yourself, like sorry. Self-care is important. And don't doubt yourself. Like you have a goal, keep going and yeah, put God first and everything else will fall into place. Yeah. And happy Mother's Day to everyone, all the moms out
Hey.
there.
And with that said, again, adding to it, congratulations again, and thank you for serving our country. You have a wonderful, blessed Sunday, and enjoy the rest of your week. And again, thank you again to Arlington, our other hosts, and to everyone out there. We appreciate you coming on to support Dr. Tunoa.
Mhm.
Dr. Tunoa.
It's a hear
That
it. Ah,
from
thank you.
Yeah, well, if anything, again, Dr. Tunoa, thank you so much. You have also a wonderful Mother's Day with your mom when that time comes and with the whole family. And to everyone else, to God be all the glory and enjoy the rest of your Sabbath day and have a good night.
Så far så ifrån.
Bye.